I try my best not to be a judgmental person, and this is partly thanks to anime. It's hard to judge other people's fandoms or activities when you literally have an anime girl as your screensaver. So when I decided I needed a new anime to watch, I went looking for anything that would catch my eye. And out of the blue, a thumbnail was presented to me that for some reason drew me in. It was of a girl and a man standing next to each other, and on further examination, the title read Higehiro. After being rejected, I shaved and took in a high school runaway. And looking at this ridiculous title, I said to myself, that's weird, as I decided to click on it and watch it. You see, my inner curiosity got the better of me, and I wanted to know what this show was about, and was it going to be an awful light novel adaptation that is made to be dumb and provocative, or was it going to follow some bigger picture that has a message in it? Well, it was both. Like, come on, with a title like that, of course it was going to be dumb. And the provocative part was about a high school runaway, which we'll come back to. And this show does have a bigger picture in mind, and that picture comes with a message that I think is actually quite good. Not even for an anime, just in general, which yeah, I know, was surprising to me as well. But what is this show about? Well, this is where I should let everyone know that there are some very dark tones within the show. These themes explore topics such as sexual assault, attempted rape, being taken advantage of, suicide, and abuse. So if any of these topics are not what you want to be hearing about, then this is not the video or show for you. But the show, fundamentally speaking, is about overcoming one's trauma. Like in my last video where I talked about trauma of grief in Solonen, where you can watch it up here. This trauma is one of a young girl who survived on her own by doing anything for a place to stay. But we'll come back to what she does later in the video. For now, we will start how the anime starts, where we see 26-year-old Yoshida being rejected by his love interest at a dinner, and then after getting drunk with his friend due to being rejected, he stumbles home just to be confronted by Sayu, a young 17-year-old sitting under a lamppost looking very vulnerable and alone. Yoshida, seeing a young girl alone, decides to go see if she's okay and if he can help. This is where Sayu tells Yoshida her age and that she's a runaway. Now, obviously, Yoshida being very mature, 26-year-old being confronted by a runaway, will call the police and allow them to deal with the situation.
So this is your place? It's filthy.
Okay, well, he failed at the first hurdle, but he's not gonna allow her to stay forever.
Rent's expensive, and a part-time job won't pay me enough to afford it.
Then just live here.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Anime, your plot points never ceases to amaze me. Now with this new home, Sayu now has a semi-permanent place to stay. This is where the healing process begins, and we get to find out the trauma that she went through, which sets us up for a very painful, uncomfortable viewing experience. You see, Sayu offers her own body to Yoshida on multiple occasions, which, geez, let me just tell you how uncomfortable this was to watch, but in a way this was the catalyst to the story. When Sayu offers herself so freely and without second thought, we first think this is going to be another trashy anime, but then very quickly, after hearing how she offers herself to other men out there, and they always said yes, and she was confused that Yoshida would say no, this lets us briefly see what Sayu went through, even if she hasn't yet. This theme of her slowly telling Yoshida more about what she went through, her past and why she ran away, and her coming to process all of this, is the antithesis to the whole show. Sayu's trauma is the plot point. And let me be very frank and say it was a roller coaster of emotions, and I didn't even know if I would finish it. It was really hard to watch, but in a good way. Like, it's hard to watch this for so many reasons. Some of them are powerful and good reasons, and others are, well, a 17-year-old running away, living in a stranger's house, and that same 17-year-old trying to keep sleeping with a 26-year-old. You know, that common occurrence that we all go through, right? That was sarcasm, by the way. But if I'm being honest, I have to say it's that uncomfortable fact of what I just said that in a weird way, it kind of needs to be there and showcased. As the point of the show to me, at the very least, is to showcase how Sayu actually is dealing and feeling with what she went through. And her over-sexualization of herself is due to the trauma she went through, has, and is going through. And this is showcased by her lack of appreciation of her own body. To her, she's an object to be used for a temporary roof, a bartering tool that can be played to get by. And I think it's due to how she throws herself on Yoshida that we get to see how truly worthless she feels about herself. Now at this point you may be wondering, what's the direction of this anime? As depending on how the story progresses is depending whether the show is weird or powerful. And here's the thing, my lovely anime viewer, I think this is a hard one to answer, as depending on the type of person you are, depends on really how you will view this show. I know for a fact there will be a population of people who will hear 17-year-old being sexualized and judge the show without watching it. And there will be people who could sit down and watch this regardless of the direction of the anime. And this is what I have to say to everyone. I strongly believe if the story has a message, a point, or even just showcasing something that the author is passionate about, then I feel that as long as there is no line crossed, then the nature of the show is of value. And in this case, I do believe that the point of the show is to showcase a young person's trauma and the journey of overcoming it. If you think it's weird that a 17-year-old is throwing herself at a 26-year-old man, then hey, you and me both. But the point of the show is to showcase how Sayu's trauma had led her to this point, and without it, the show almost wouldn't be the same. However, I do understand that the show is not for everyone, nor would I recommend it to anyone who isn't very used to anime. Even though I think the show has a great purpose, yes, a little rough around the edges in some cases, but we'll get back to that. Either way, I just wanted to point out that this show is very out there, very anime, but actually has a point to its over-sexualization more than almost all other animes. But we spent so much time talking about Sayu's trauma without saying what she actually went through. So now we will go into detail about how Sayu got her trauma. There is unfortunately a lot of trauma to talk about, but we can break this down into 3 main parts. 1. Sexual assault / being taken advantage of. 2. Attempted rape. And 3. Suicide from a friend / home trauma. Like I stated earlier, Sayu used her body to survive the streets. This is where people took advantage of her and assaulted her body. Now let me tell you that one of the scenes in this show that has burnt deep into my corneas is where we get to see this assault take place. And what makes it more devastating and depressing is how dead her eyes look. If the eyes are the gateway to our soul, then Sayu's eyes are telling me nothing. Not literally nothing, but she feels nothing. She has reached the point of not trying. This is where we see Sayu at her deepest point, a point of total despair and one of giving up. And I have to be honest, this was very hard to watch. We move on to the part of the show where Sayu starts to feel safe. She has a place to live, a part-time job, and she's finally living, right until one of the guys that took her in and used her started to work at her part-time job. This is where he blackmails her to go round Yoshida's house. She agrees, thinking all he wants is to know where she lives, but sadly his intentions is not one of pure minds. This is where he attempts to rape her. One has to understand this is the first time we see Sayu struggling against the trauma being thrown at her, right until she falls back to where she was giving in to the trauma and decides to not fight back anymore, thinking that this is the easier option. Now to me, seeing this situation unfold, I really got to see how Sayu is doing. Her fighting back compared to earlier when she allowed herself to be used and assaulted shows that she is progressing. But what I think maybe people will overlook is when she's given in. This is a powerful message that the fight over trauma and pain is a battle that is not won easily. And this is shown by her thinking that allowing it to happen is the easier option. Luckily, Yoshida comes in at the right time, saving her from this situation. But it just goes to show how even though Sayu is on the healing journey, she is far from being healed. And side note, I mentioned earlier how there are some parts of the show I thought were devastating. And I think the character Yoguchi, the guy who works alongside Sayu and used her and tried to rape her, was written in such a way that I was extremely disappointed with. We get a face and a name of one of the many men used and abused Sayu's situation, and all he got was a light telling of by Yoshida. Oh, and don't get me started on how he had a moment of almost protecting Sayu in their store. I was actually shocked, like, is the author trying to say to us, hey guys, like, I know he used and assaulted Sayu, but like, he did one good thing, so like, he's a good guy now, right? Like, what? And I don't care that Sayu said she wouldn't forgive him, that's not good enough. It really felt that he got away with everything. And here's the thing, I don't disagree with having a character do the things he does. does and get away with it, but only if that's the point and message you're trying to say. You know, a message to the audience of here's the thing that sadly happens, and most of the time that these people don't get punished. Now that would be a powerful message, but I felt like this was not the intention of the author, or if it was, it didn't go down well for me. I really believe that Yaguchi was nothing more than a plot point, a place to move the story forward instead of having some kind of deeper meaning. However, look, that's the way I see it. Let me know if you disagree and you think the author used him as a way to showcase how people get away with things like this in the comments section down below. Okay, now to point 3, suicide of a friend and home trauma. This part of the story is near the end of the show, but in the timeline of the characters, it actually happened first. You see, Sayu's home life was one of emotional abuse. Her mother hated Sayu because her father left when she was born, and her mother blamed Sayu for him leaving. The abuse only got worse when one day Sayu, being a loner at school, became friends with another loner, and they became best friends. However, the other girls at the school, not liking Sayu, starts to pick on her friend. This bullying gets to the point where her friend can't take it anymore and ends her life at the top of the school in front of Sayu. Now, not only does Sayu have to deal with seeing her best friend end her own life in front of her, not only does she feel like she's to blame, but her own mother accused her of pushing her best friend off the roof, therefore murdering her. Now, knowing what Sayu went through, we start to understand why she wanted to run away. But to me, these scenes in the show just makes me want to ask questions. What if her friend never ended her life? Would anything be different? What if her mum was supportive? What if her brother stepped in and defended her? What if Yoshida never found her? And it's the fact that I have these questions that dignify the show to me. Honestly, ask yourself this: how many anime shows have really made you ask questions? Seriously, how many? How many have made you feel something more than, that's cute, or that's a cool fight scene? And how many animes have made you rethink anime shows, and that they can be more than just dumb fun, and instead have powerful message or invoke real emotions? Now, this isn't me saying I want every anime to be like this, far from it, but rather my way of asking you, my lovely anime viewers, when was the last time you really felt something from an anime? This show to me is powerful, uncomfortable, invigorating, depressing, disturbing, emotional, surprising, and so much more. Is it weird? Yes, it's anime, but it has a message that to me is more meaningful than all the weirdness it showcases. And I've been talking about the message of this show from the start of the video, so let me tell you what I took away from this show. To me, this show is one of journeys. Journey of a young girl who has faced trauma head on, and when finding the right person, starts to heal. It is a message that no matter how bad your situation, what awful things you went through, or what disturbing things will await us, there is always a path for each and every one of us to go on a journey of healing. I wish that no one had to go on this journey, but to the people who need to hear this, you're not alone, and all journeys have an end, and I hope that end is happiness for you. Thank you very much for watching. This has been Love Main. I'll see you next time.